What's happening? What's happening? Benton here. Shout out to Razvan for today's stream and his generosity, because otherwise I don't believe there would be a stream this morning. How's everybody doing? Completed my early morning recycling run in within 5 minutes of less than 5 minutes from the time I left the confines of my automobile, the automobile from which I'm speaking to you now. Complete strangers, one of which was urinating next to a car parked on the street, and one who was seated in the car attempted to interact with me and honked the horn, loud honking of the horn as I walked up to their location, having no idea that they were there because I was shining my flashlight on the ground looking for cans and bottles. What's up, Mental Pancakes? And nice to see you, Razvan. Thank you very much yet again, sir. My profuse thanks. It's a big help. I ordered 4 more pairs of compression socks. So now I'm going to replace the my well-worn ones. I had a 4-pack I had purchased a while back, just waiting for such an opportunity, because I'm not able to distinguish the old ones from the new ones. So I want to just get rid of the old ones. And they're on sale, Black Friday on Amazon. But let me get back to this. Oh, and also a pair of sweatpants to help keep me warmer at night whilst I sleep. Slept really good last night, but I will get back to that story. But those were also, Black Friday sale. So got both of those, 4 pairs of socks and a pair of sweatpants for with tax, a little over $20. Shout out to inflation, right? Inflation, not inflation. Dead, not dead. That's another word for resurrection. And I do want to get into the financial stuff with Trump already announcing the Treasury Secretary is going to be a homosexual, a man married to a man who's apparently used to work for George Soros, right? But Trump's going to fix everything and save us all. He certainly doesn't work for banks and corporations, right? Ha ha ha. But yeah, so I'm walking up, not knowing these folks are there. Loud horn blares, and the fellow sitting in the passenger seat with the door open. Hey, bro, the putting the bass in the voice, right? To address a complete stranger at 3 a.m. in a major city. Great idea. And of course, I know, and that's when I noticed the fellow urinating, right? And so I said, and now I know he's digging out cans and bottles out of his car because he wants to give me 15 cents, right? So I guess I'm supposed to just stand there on the sidewalk while the guy finishes pissing and the other guy hands over 2 to 3 cans and bottles. So I said, "Yeah, I'm walking down the sidewalk. Leave me the fuck alone." To which the person in the passenger seat responded, "Fuck you," right? Yeah, there's nobody has ever felt the need to speak to me and interrupt my day who also wanted to give me between 1 and 3 pieces of recycling. The people who know how to interface with homeless people and people such as myself, they see me coming with the bag and they see that they have a can in their hand that they've just finished, or they can finish it. And then as we pass, they reach out and hand it to me, and I never even break stride, and I say thank you very much, and I continue on about my day. See, that's the opposite of interrupting my day or my morning. And I'm cranky in the mornings. I'm old, right? Less cranky though, and good to see you, Sister T. Less cranky these days because I'm off the coffee, and I don't know that I'm ever going back to the coffee. Although who knows? It is quite delicious. I do enjoy. I skimmed an email there. Good to see you, Sister T. Mental Pancakes, aforementioned, and then Razvan as you know, how long before Razvan is a millionaire is what I'd like to know, if he's not already, because what is that going to do to his bottom line as we see Bitcoin? Has it gone across 100,000 yet? Because I'm assuming the idea is that if it cracks 100K, it's just going to run. It's going to continue to run probably to what, 125 in the short term. I mean, I don't follow crypto. I'm just going based on my knowledge of trading and how these things tend to go on a bull run, on a breakout bull run. Uh, Although with Trump coming in, I would think it would be kind of the opposite, right? I don't know. I don't really know as far as the Bitcoin skyrocketing. But yeah, certainly Razvan's net worth presumably skyrocketing. The person's who's claims to be rich, who's I'm pretty sure their net worth is not skyrocketing, would be one Tommy, right? Who was apparently waiting for AMC or GameStop or whatever for these shorts to have to cover. Uh, and then I'm wondering, has Tom had to sell off some of his assets to remain in his present lifestyle, right? I don't know. It's a good question. None of my business ultimately. But yeah, interesting times in these recycling streets with complete strangers. Now, presumably intoxicated. I'm just going to go ahead and assume, and I'm guessing the guy pissing on the that strip of ground between the sidewalk and the street. I'm going to go ahead and guess that to have been the driver, right? And what was yesterday's? What was yesterday's recycling haul? I think today's is probably pretty close to $10 if I grab a few more on the way to the recycler. And they've already delivered my socks, Razvan, to the Amazon locker. One of the many advantages of being located in a big city, right, and having Amazon Prime is I ordered that last night, and in fact, they would have no, I ordered it yesterday, and they would have delivered it same day, actually. And I said, no, just go ahead and deliver it. Wait a minute, let me check my audio. Yeah, I'm still on the Bluetooth headset. My icon doesn't seem to be vibrating quite as there we go. There we go. Quite as harsh or as strongly as normal. Can you hear me now? But yeah, I was wiped out, man, by about I think I took to the car about 2:30 in the afternoon, and it was a little warmer than it has been yesterday, being that it is winter. Although, is it officially winter yet? Is it still fall? I think technically. Um, but I was out, man. I napped it out. I think I fell asleep listening to interrogation videos, and then woke up probably around 5:30 and tried to start listening to YouTube again, to make it to my normal bedtime of around 6:30. And I'm pretty sure I just went to sleep by 6, woke up shortly before midnight, and then went back to sleep and woke up around my normal time about 1:15. So yeah, good times. The body continues to heal. And as much as I declared a couple of years ago now on these streams that I was dying and was pretty much dead, and talks of hospice, and um, certainly was seriously ill on a daily basis for about 2 straight years. Uh, yeah, I'm doing much better now, but chronic fatigue, I experience pretty strong fatigue on a daily basis. But I also experience plenty of energy. Right? It's funny how that effect vacillates, within one day. And I'm starting to gain a little bit of weight. I believe we're up to about 130 pounds. Might, who knows, a few more months might crawl my way up to my the low end of my normal body weight for a 5'10" uh, man with a medium-sized frame, which is 137 pounds. Have you checked? Have you checked where you are on the BMI chart lately? As I see articles talking about uh, that they say, like, 70% of Americans, or 70% of the American diet is now ultra processed foods, what I like to refer to as eating out of boxes and bags. And let's check the articles because it was dead on Drudge, post election. It's been pretty dead. But yeah, here we go. All the president's men openly gay former Soros aide for Treasury Secretary. Let's see, what's this guy's name? What to know about Scott? Is it Bessent? Bessent, like descent or Bessent, or is it Bessent? I don't know. It's probably Bessent. Let's just go with that until we're corrected. President, and I'm not seeing any comments if there are any coming in, but who knows? President-elect Trump will nominate Scott Bessent, a financier focused on global macroeconomics, as his Treasury Secretary, which would make him the incoming administration's top economic official. Why it matters. Bessent, or Bessent, I haven't even decided how to pronounce it, would bring to Treasury deep knowledge of bond and currency markets and a close relationship with Trump, as well as a surprising connection to hedge fund manager George Soros, mega donor to liberal causes, and boogeyman to the political right. Interesting, this article using the term liberal and the term political right. That's interesting. Of course, Trump is not on the right politically, as we all know. Zoom in. Bessent, 62, founded hedge fund Key Square Capital Management. And I guess somebody let OTW know to start with the decodes, right? Key Square Capital Management. Before that, he spent most of his career at Soros Capital Management, including as chief investment officer from 2011 to 2015. Chief investment officer of Soros Capital Management. He's been an avid fundraiser for Trump and a defender of the president-elect. In media appearances, Trump has threatened to impose high tariffs on all U.S. imports, which will absolutely, that will definitely stimulate the economy in the short term, because these various corporations will fill their warehouses with goods because of the threat of tariffs. So they will see that as an opportunity to buy cheap goods that may, in fact, if the tariffs never happen, or if the tariffs end up being much lower than expected, or if the tariffs are merely used as a bargaining chip, may not actually be a discount, right? But hey, in the short term, if I wanted to go and to long haul trucking to make a fast buck or two, it would be good for me, right? What have you done for me lately? Some economists have warned that such aggressive tariffs could reignite inflation. And then in recent interviews, Bessent has tried to play down Trump's trade threats, and I think, didn't Musk pretty much say like it ain't going to happen? I think, isn't that what? Not that he's in charge necessarily, although he apparently, the billionaire Trump needed and again, we're going official fiction here. I'm not saying this is what happened or that it's even real, man. Is this even real, man? But official fiction level or layer, the billionaire Trump brought in Musk to bankroll most of the campaign, apparently, or much of it. The idea that he would recreate an affordability crisis is absurd, Bessent told Axios' Mike Allen in a phone interview earlier this month. And Bessent told Axios that Trump regards himself as the mayor of 330 million Americans, and he wants them to do great and have a great 4 years. Well, what Trump wants, what does that have to do with what the banks and the corporations want? What does that have to do with it? Now, if what's good for the people and what's good for the banks and the corporations temporarily lines up, well, then yeah, he can LARP as the mayor of 330 million Americans. There's your 33 code, by the way. Yeah, come on. And here we go, something I mentioned from reading these articles. He also told the Financial Times last month that the tariffs were a starting point for negotiations with trading partners. My general view is that at the end of the day, he is a free trader. And as I pointed out many times, no such fucking thing as free trade when you have a central bank that artificially sets the interest rate in a free market, right? With free trade, the markets would set all of that. Oh, here we go. Yeah, Razvan was unable to comment for a couple of minutes straight. Yeah, who knows? We'll blame YouTube, and who knows? I don't know. In regards to Tommy, XRP is actually running up. Question is, did he buy at the top of 2018? Because that's when he bought. Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know enough about it, so I will yield to your superior knowledge there, sir. And Tommy sounds like a person who would hold for the long term as much as possible. Although he was, when the dog was needed medical attention, I believe he was selling some of his assets, from what I recall. But who knows? And then here's the LARP of the article. Oh, okay. From Razvan says from his discussions with Tommy, uh, he bought in 2018. XRP was at 50 cents since 2018 crash. Now it's at a dollar and a half. So it's tripled. Oh, that's good. But my read of Tom is that if he expects it to go much higher, he's going to hold as much as he's able to for the full rally. Now here's the LARP of the article is now, because these Trump types, right? These Trump voters, the ones that actually know a thing or two, they want to see the Federal Reserve reined in, right? Hey, what's up, Jen? Cool. Jen's up $500. She went up $500. Awesome. Yeah, based on how dumb he is, he bought at the top. Well, yeah, but it means still tripling it, right? Tripling it. I'm so dumb. I could have bought. I had $8,000 and considered buying Bitcoin, $4,000 of Bitcoin at $35, not 35,000, not 3,500, $35. But I was only going to buy it to play online poker with, so I don't need to really need to beat myself up because most likely I would have lost it. Although I could have broken even certainly with my poker skill. Yeah, hold for the long term. Good on you, Jen. So here we get into the LARP is the intrigue. Bessent has been critical of the Federal Reserve. Well, let's go back to what did Alan Greenspan say when asked what is the nature of the relationship between the U.S. president and the head of the Federal Reserve? And he said, well, frankly, it doesn't matter because the president of the United States has nothing to do more or less with what the Fed does. It ain't up to the president, right? So this is where the system pretends like Trump has the power to do much of anything with respect to the Fed. Although I've forgotten how this works, but I think does the president appoint the Fed chairman? I'm not exactly sure. Somebody remind me, or I'll go look it up if I need to. Yeah, that's true. We don't know yet. With Tom, it's hard to know what's real and what's um, subterfuge, right? Yeah, in general, if you're doing well, you're not shy. That's true, but I will push back a little bit with that because Arkansas certainly has a culture of the people who do have millions of dollars really don't show it. That is a real thing. And West Virginia would have a similar culture. Now, whether or not Tom would adhere to that, because I'm sure Tom in his daily, in his behavior probably does run contrary to, the culture in which he was socialized. But that is one thing I add in is that, Arkansas has plenty of people who are millionaires or multimillionaires or, have a net worth of over $10 million because of Walmart, because of working for Walmart, but they don't necessarily show it. So, but yeah, I tend to agree with what you're saying, Razvan, overall. Or at least, who knows, but that could explain why he's able to, while claiming that he was going to be evicted from his apartment. And certainly the city would enable him, they would assist him on the rent to some extent. But then eventually, then we get into, is he disabled, right? Because otherwise, why are they, giving money to pay the rent of a man who's, otherwise able to work, right? Presumably. I don't know. Can't tell you. None of my business, so I actually should shut the fuck up now. Last month, Besant put forth a novel and unorthodox idea to name a, quote, shadow Fed chair who would be, this is just ridiculous, who would be heir apparent to Jerome Powell when Powell's term is up in 2026. So I guess these guys are appointed for a specific time. Uh, so Trump will be inaugurated in early 2025. And so let's assume does his term go through all the way through 2026? That's interesting. I'll have to do the math on that when I'm off stream. The idea was criticized for the potential impact on financial markets. Well, of course, I mean, that's neither here nor there, that part. Besant, let's just go with Besant, has since backtracked on this idea. Shocking, by the way. Speaking on CNBC earlier this month, in the aftermath of the election, he clarified. Interesting how what he said before when the election was in question and what he said now that the election is no longer in question. Funny how that's changed, almost as if he himself is a politician, right? Meanwhile, all the MAGA bozos who love to go around saying about Trump, oh, he did everything he said he was going to do. Now they're going to they just believe his campaign promises. Meanwhile, they went from lock her up in his first term to, right after I believe right after he was inaugurated, he was saying, he was praising Hillary, or maybe even right after he was president-elect, he was praising Hillary and talking about how great the Clintons were, if anybody recalls. But that doesn't matter. Oh, he had to do that. They say, oh, okay, well, then what good is he if he has to do things? Well, yeah, he has to because of the banks and the corporations. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, even millionaires are in the bottom nowadays, Razvan. And I want to get to another article I saw. We'll get to that next about Americans. A smattering of Americans were polled about what do they consider more or less, how much does it take to live comfortably in America and going into 2025. And spoiler alert, it was something like $260,000. But there's even more interesting things in the article. Oh, XRP skipped the 2021 bull run. That's interesting. No, you're not distracting me. I think it's interesting. I'm learning. Again, I don't follow crypto. I know more than the average person, but which means I know something, right? But other than that, I don't keep up with it. And at some point, the average person will know as much about it as I do, the way things are going. Speaking on CNBC earlier this month, in the aftermath of the election, he clarified that he thinks the incoming Trump administration should nominate the next Federal Reserve chair early, right? So he went from, incendiary, inflammatory talk to backing off of that as soon as Trump had the election secured, and says, "Oh well, we just think he should nominate that person early." Okay, well that's fine, whatever. That's your opinion. Whether or not that happens is up to who? Say it with me, folks: the banks and the corporations. Powell, for his part, says he won't resign and that Trump cannot demote Fed officials either. Oh, see, there you go. But Trump will apparently get to nominate. He will get to nominate the next chair. Although, is that implies that it's then up to Congress to sign off on the nomination, right? Again, I don't know. Besant would be a key salesman for Trump's fiscal agenda on Capitol Hill at a pivotal time. Because remember, Trump doesn't get to just decide how the economy operates. And that's where, they talk about operating America like a business. Well, in that analogy, Trump would be the CEO and could make a bunch of decisions, right? Although even the CEO would have a board of directors to deal with, right? The board. So I don't know. Maybe I'm actually wrong here. A slew of Trump era tax cuts will expire next year. Almost like Trump was the president, and I'm not saying he was, right? uh, even as Trump pledged a range of further tax cuts on the campaign trail. Besant would also take charge of economic relations between the U.S. and the rest of the world. His would-be predecessor, Janet Yellen, I guess that, so by would be, I think they mean Janet Yellen is the current chair, I believe, the current secretary, and presumably would have remained if the Democrat, if Kamala had won. So I guess that's what they mean there. A little bit confusing the way that's worded. Impose sanctions on Russia aimed at curbing the war in Ukraine. U.S.-China relations remain frosty. Remember, folks, I'm on record that geopolitics is a red herring dead end, though Yellen established a so-called financial working group with China, opening up channels between, because it is all about the banks and corporations, opening up channels between the two sides in the event of global market stress. And we've been led to believe that's been a thing, right? Besant is married to John Freeman, a former prosecutor, and they have 2 children. If confirmed, Besant would be the first openly gay Treasury Secretary, because remember, the president always has to pretend to be like a church-going Christian, or at least a religious man who attends church, or woman. I think whoever that Mormon is that was running for president. Other than that, they always LARP as Protestants and Catholics, right? What about is Kamala Muslim? I don't even know. I haven't even paid attention, but I'm assuming she's Christian. I don't know. And then, like we noted with Biden, who people tried to declare as like the most church-going president in a long ass time. Because remember, folks, I have a memory. I remember these things. His Catholic faith or whatever. But then he appointed that creature. What was that guy's name? The cross dresser that stole the luggage and the designer luggage and women's clothes at the airport. What was that fella's name? Samuel Brenton. Yeah. Appointed him to, assistant secretary of toxic waste disposal or something about nuclear energy. Right. But then same thing with this is, the president has to pretend to be a church going Christian, but then like Trump, completely free to appoint openly gay men married to men and raising children. And again, I'm not that I'm against these things necessarily, but and I'll just go ahead and say it. I'm for freedom. That's what I'm for. Now, if the government was just like, hey, y'all can't get legally married, that's also fine with me. Not a big deal to me personally. But then now we get into, domestic partnerships because the government's not going to be able to discriminate because there's laws on the books where they're not going to be able to discriminate against a man who wants to have a domestic partner that's a man. So that's how that goes. There's always ways around. Just like when my home state of Arkansas passes this the very conservative legislation, such as making it to where you can't transition the children before the age of 18, and then everybody pats themselves on the back because the state legislature done good and passes this law. But then every single time, either the Arkansas fucking court system strikes it down, or if necessary, the federal court system strikes it down. And then the people of Arkansas that's happened several times. So yeah, you can have Sarah Huckabee Sanders as the governor, and you can have this ultra conservative, so-called conservative legislature. What the hell does it matter if every single piece of conservative legislation gets struck down through the courts? What the hell does it matter? There's your checks and balances, by the way. But then they do good things, like when Arkansas tried to ban all of the alternate cannabinoids, the alt cannabinoids, like my personal favorite, THCO. It was banned for like 3 months, and then the courts were like, "No, you can't do that." So that's pretty cool. More conservative legislation, by the way. Yeah, let's legalize medical marijuana and then outlaw a bunch of cannabinoids. That makes total sense. Within like 10 years of each other or less. Blah blah blah. Anyway, that's enough on that. Yeah, there you go. Trump brought Powell. That's a good point. Yeah. See, I forgot that, Jen. Well, I would imagine, Clump, aren't crypto markets a toy of already rich bankers yet? I would assume so. And yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and guess. And And hell, now these rich folks are even they've taken over college football. If anybody, because I am such a huge, historically such a huge college sports fanatic. Even though I got turned away from it, for a while, I'm somewhat interested in it. And now that they have this NIL, the name, image, and likeness, where the players can get money directly, they're basically the which is proper, by the way, but the players can get paid. So Larry Ellison, who's apparently worth about $250 billion, um, co-founder of Oracle, Larry Ellison was involved in Michigan getting the number one recruit in the country, who's supposed to receive like $12 million to go to Michigan. And I'm all for it. It's great. Why not? Um, and also, folks may not know that many years ago, Larry Ellison went to the University of Arkansas and gave something like $7 million, like to the business college, um, you know, to foster some sort of relationship with Walmart, because Walmart's headquartered nearby to the U of A campus. Nice, Razvan cashed out 8,500 on a future trade. Yeah, and I did see that now apparently the SEC is allowing futures trading on crypto, I guess. Yeah, no rich people holding Razvan down, and good on you, man. I'm all for it. It's fantastic. And yeah, and I never meant to imply that it was for only for rich people. Yeah, that was a miscommunication if that idea was sent. But I'm certain that it's being manipulated, and I think when you see Bitcoin, when you see resistance at 100K, that's what I'm assuming is it's the big money holding it back, just like we see in gold. The big money's able to hold it back to some extent. Yeah, I'm just not interested, Clump. I think I'm just going to go ahead and speak for you there. I believe if you had an interest in it, you would absolutely learn about it. It's just like if back during the poker craze, when a lot of people were making money playing poker. It's like, no, I was playing it because I enjoyed it and I learned a lot about it and studied it because I was into it, right? And also, compulsive gambling to some extent. I hadn't quite mastered my compulsive gambling genes or whatever. But yeah, if I'm not interested, there's nothing. The money will not make me interested. So I'm just not interested in it. Yeah, exactly. Well, and your average bozo is going to lose their ass anyway in something like crypto because they don't have the what it takes between the not between the ears. But certainly Clump does, as we know. But I get the density also, the paralysis by analysis, the wanting to know everything, right? And then some folks are just, and it is gambling on some level, whether you want to whether somebody like my dad who's been trading since the mid '90s wants to recognize it or not, it is gambling. Now that doesn't mean it's null and void and just now it's immoral, but it's okay. Let me be more specific. It's not gambling in the conventional sense. It contains elements of speculation. Let's just go ahead and which I would say is gambling, but then again, I'm prone to hyperbole, right? You got shorts on my trade on my channel. Yeah, there you go. That's where the game is fixed. Yep. Good stuff, Razvan. Loving it. Yeah, Bitcoin flirts with 100,000. And here you go. Thousands of Americans see their savings vanish in Synapse fintech crisis. Right. Thousands of Americans will receive little or nothing from savings accounts that were locked during the collapse of fintech middleman Synapse. Customers believe the accounts were backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. CNBC spoke to a dozen customers caught in the predicament, people who have lost sums ranging from 7,000 to well over 200,000. While there's not yet a full tally, blah, 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 13,000 people uh, say they're being offered a combined 11.8 million despite putting in 64.9 million in deposits. Well, yeah, there's no such thing as a free lunch anyway. No lunches are free. Musk to buy CNBC question mark. And see, now the system just announces things and whether or not it comes to pass, because remember, it was announced that the Onion had purchased InfoWars. But then it turns out, well, actually, the court system has said that they can't purchase InfoWars through the auction. So now whether or not the Onion ends up with InfoWars, who knows? But Now, a lot of people will just believe that Elon Musk bought MSNBC, whether he actually buys it or not. We got enslaved on OnlyFans. Women describe lives of isolation, torment, and servitude, which is interesting because presumably a lot of these women are OnlyFans models in lieu of living under a man in a pregnant barefoot in the kitchen way, right? And that because that's oppressive. And as we've noted, a woman is free to live any life she chooses and be accepted in society unless she wants to be a stay-at-home mom. And then, now she's not accepted in general society. That's oppression, right? So the people who claim that it's oppression would say, well, that's a way to live a life of isolation, torment, and servitude. Well, servitude to who? The husband and the children, right? But now we have articles saying that women are describing lives of isolation, torment, and servitude because that they are OF models and they're being exploited by these men, presumably, although some of them are probably women doing exploiting. I'm sure there's plenty of big, tough lesbians also doing the exploitation. But remember, folks, it's not toxic. The masculinity is not toxic when it's a big, tough lesbian doing it. Shock study, COVID infection shrinks cancerous tumors. Dana White's done with disgusting politics. I'm scrolling down to try to find this article. First trans member of Congress. Something about a bathroom ban. Who cares? Don't care. Oh, here we go. Americans say you need 270,000 a year to be financially successful. But see, here's the generation gap. If you ever want to know what the generation gap is, boomers say it's 100,000 and Gen Z says 600,000. Because boomers presumably own homes. The Gen Z's looking at it like, well, if I'm actually going to do anything but rent, I'm going to need 600K a year. And they're probably right to be financially successful, which I would say would mean not living to paycheck and not living on a bunch of 25+% consumer credit, like probably the majority of Americans now do. And if y'all got anything, hit me in the chat because we are wrapping pretty soon. So, because I got shit to do as always. Thank you all for being here. Shout out to the donators. I'll read Razvan's comments, although I'm not sure that I understand them. Yeah, it's manipulated, but I'm not playing on high market caps like whatever the fuck that is. XRP, Ethereum. Okay, XRP, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. That's where the game is fixed. But yeah, and Razvan agrees it is gambling. Yeah. And then Clump says 100%. Yeah. Just like poker, by the way, where I can have a skill advantage depending on the form of poker and who I'm playing against. Razvan says, but when I get rumors on Caspa getting listed on the first, see, I don't know what any of this means, listed on the first tier 1 Kraken, I know almost for sure price is going up. I see. Well, basically what Razvan is saying is that there's indicators that he considers trustworthy and that he's proven through his own trading by putting his money where his mouth is. He's reasonably certain, he's making an educated guess that it's going to go up. Yeah, it's fascinating, man. Yeah, excellent crypto talk in the chat here. Screenshot that, folks, if you need. And I don't know, maybe Razvan, maybe go to Razvan's channel. Maybe he'll start doing crypto content. Who knows? Feel free to drop your link before we get out of here. We've got about 15 more minutes, probably 15 to 20. Yeah, scan X for news, etc. Most people stay on panels and expect to make it in crypto with minimal research. Well, that was why it was so ridiculous when Polyboy was trying to talk crypto, because just with my educated layperson knowledge of financial markets, I heard him say things that proved to me within 5 minutes that he had absolutely no fucking idea what he was talking about. I mean, no fucking clue. He was saying shit that was just like, oh, wait a minute. It's like, no, that's the opposite of the truth there, Polyboy. And I don't remember specifically what it was, but if I could spot that he didn't know what he was talking about, but then the bozo audience, they don't fucking know, right? Yeah. But again, Razvan, I think it's great that you're able to do this. Razvan says homework, people, information is valuable. Indeed. Yeah. It's just for the more dare I say autistic, undiagnosed fake autistic people speaking to me, and whatever Clump's got going on with his density. If I don't feel it, I can't follow through with it. In fact, my father, when he started trading in the mid '90s, I built him a computer, and we got him connected to the internet through dial up and all of this. And for a time, I was going through a divorce and not the best headspace to be in to try to learn something like trading. But he was so into trading, he was wanting to have me by his side and learn how to do it. And I tried for a time, but I just wasn't interested in it enough. So he was actually letting me trade with his money, believe it or not. Although he was kind of overseeing the trades, but I just had no interest in it. But the fact that the possibility of being bankrolled and then maybe being able to earn a living at it, yeah, that was intriguing. But for me personally, if I'm not emotionally invested, it's just never going to work. It's how I got good at basketball back in the day. I was interested in it. It's, poker, same thing. Not that I'm great at it, but I'm halfway decent, right? Any of these things that somebody sets out to master, I just for most folks, I just don't think but a lot of people will probably try to go into it who don't need to feel some type of way, and those are the ones who generally aren't going to have the aptitude, in my experience. And then even my own father, it took him, because of his compulsive gambling that he wasn't, probably still is in denial about. He traded for many years before he really developed his skills. But guess what? He doesn't have any money, right? So now he's relegated to just whatever little bit of money he can scrape up, and then so he's nickel and diming, right? Unless he hits it big on the crypto or whatever. Yeah, Raz could be the crypto fund manager. But yeah, that's the thing is anybody, why would he even do that if he's able to, if he has his own money? And the thing about that's where a job like truck driving is so valuable, with a relatively high income. And I don't know if they pay weekly or not, but it's a little easier to quote gamble when somebody knows they're getting a paycheck that week, a pretty sizable paycheck. So when I was truck driving, living in the truck, if I went into a card room and bought in for $500 and lost the $500, it's just neither here nor there. Meanwhile, $500 that's a significant sum of money to me as I speak to you now, right? It's funny how that's all situational. In fact, when I went to Tulsa and won, I don't know, I think it was right at 2 grand, I ended up winning. Um, I was into the game for 850 of my own money, which absolutely could have went to zero, right? In one hand, because I like to gamble and I like to play pot limit Omaha. And in fact, I could have won 10,000 that night. It was my own vanity, right? The fact that I was streaming every day, and I had told the stream that I was going to and I think I was up closer to 3, and then lost some back and said, fuck it, I'm getting out of here and booking a win. And that was also when I was still sick enough from the malabsorption that it was hard for me to see the cards on the table, like no bullshit. That's how poor my eyesight was. My eyesight, it goes up and down still, but it's much, much better than it has been, certainly. Although I do need to, whatever I end up doing to actually make enough money to, get another year of phone, another year of YouTube premium, another year of car insurance, right? Whatever repairs this car needs, if I choose to keep it, I'm going to have to do something at some point. So maybe I will go drive a truck for a few months if the conditions improve. Who knows? I really don't want to, but that's part of being a man, right? Uh, just do it anyway. Do what needs to be done anyway. Razvan says, keep in mind, I showed my 114K. Oh, yeah, I understand. Yeah, Razvan saying that he had 114 in British pound sterling, which is, I don't know, 150K in US dollars. I'm just guessing. To Tommy last year or beginning of this year. I can't flex it anymore for safety. The only reason I did is because Tommy said I don't know shit about crypto. Yeah, and the only thing I would push back is, I'm sure you realize there's no advantage to proving yourself to somebody like Tom, but I certainly understand the impulse. Like I get it. Oh, we getting donos here? Yeah, thank you for the donation there. Much appreciated. You know who you are. Lovely. It's getting rough out here, Goblin Majesty. You mean financially? You mean financially? And that's, part of me is, part of me, if you mean financially, I will stay a few more minutes to address the losers, right? And people who, don't know how to create a budget for themselves, right? Because the fact is, if a person has a job and has an income, uh, and doesn't have a written budget, they have absolutely no idea that they adhere to. They don't know what their spending goes on. So they actually have no idea if they can afford things like their rent, their electricity. They just don't know, right? So for the entirety of our relationship, once me and ex-wife number two combined our finances, I made a written budget that for each week, and we adhered to that budget. And it wasn't up for discussion. It wasn't up for debate. Certainly, as the leader, it was up to me to make sure that all of her needs were taken care of. Right. It wasn't about deprivation, but most folks see a written budget as, oh, I'm depriving myself because now I'm going to want to go out with my friends. I'm going to get that text or I'm going to get that DM of, hey, we're all going out to do the thing. Are you coming? So people associate that with, well, if I'm on a budget and I stick to the budget, now I can't go have fun time. No, you budget the fun time. So we knew we're going to go out to eat and have drinks at some point. That's in the budget, right? You budget those things. So once the money for the week is spent, when you get the DM, you're like, hey, sorry, I can't join you, right? And pretty soon your friends begin to realize that that's a thing, right? All the and the pressure and the loserdom comes in because the peer group is not on written budgets. The peer group is living a life based on accessing consumer credit at 25% or more, right? That's what it's all based on, living above their means. See, that's what it's all based on. So the roughness is what happens during the contraction phase, because remember, the purpose, the function of the economy is to make rich people richer into perpetuity, and it never fails to do that in any given moment. But the economy, so-called, simultaneously serves functions for us lowly commoners, right, and facilitates all of these things. But we, the commoners, are in a never-ending series of boom cycles and bust cycles, or expansion phases and contraction phases. So in the contraction phase, people who don't have a grasp on their spending, people who don't understand all these mechanisms, now they get squeezed, just like I began to get squeezed in '08, in the '08, '09, when I still was paying the rent on time. I was still paying the utilities on time. I never didn't have money to put gas in one of the two cars that were both paid for, by the way, at the time. If one of the cars had a repair though necessary, now we might have been in trouble. Now we're sharing a car. You see what I'm saying? But I had my bases covered for the most part. So what happens in the contraction phase is now there's less money generally for people. It's harder to get ahead. If a person is engaged in the gig economy, well, when people aren't spending as much, there's not as many gigs to be done, right? So I'll just go ahead and say right now, if you don't have a written budget that you adhere to, you don't know what in the fuck's going on. So of course it's always going to be rough for you, except that during the expansion or inflation phase, it seems like things are good because you're able to go out there and worship the god of consumerism, and that is the national religion is consumerism, and you're able to go out there and buy, spend, spend, spend. What do you do in the contraction phase? You come on here and say it's getting rough out there, and you say, oh, because I'm entitled, right? Because I have a sense of entitlement as an American, and because I believe in not pulling myself up by my bootstraps, because I believe in somebody else solving my own problems for myself, I look to a president to come in and fix the economy. See, now, folks like Goblin may say, well, that's not me. No, that is you. It's just that you are even worse because you espouse rhetoric to the contrary, while still looking to something outside of yourself to solve your own problems vis-a-vis the financial system. Whereas people like me and Razvan, because we have a work ethic and we can show up to a job and not be checked out and not seem fucking stoned, right? and not have to talk a bunch of frou-frou spiritual nonsense, right? We can show up and drive a motherfucking truck 7 days a week for months on end if we need to. And I can go do that right now, right? And that's part of me maintaining myself as a person who's never been in the criminal justice system, right? That's part of me. I can probably pass a drug test right now, although I'd say it's probably 50-50. Give me another week, I'll be able to pass a drug test. Although I would still, out of an abundance of caution, I would wait another week just to be sure. And in fact, in the past, I've paid for my own drug test. I've drug tested myself to be sure that I'm going to pass that urine test so that I don't so that I can continue to work as a truck driver. See, now people, losers like Goblin, will say, "Oh, well, Benton, you're lucky. You're lucky." No, now I am. I've been fortunate. Good fortune has followed me my entire life. That has nothing to do with it. My choices have led me to the situation I'm in. Now, some people would say, "Do you mean living in a car with barely two nickels to rub together?" Well, yeah, that too, but also this other situation I'm describing. So, are you going to put your big boy pants on, Goblin? And please don't lie to me down there in the chat and tell me that you have a written budget that you adhere to. No, you don't. Bullshit. No, you don't. But put your big boy pants on and break out that thing that makes that triggers you. You know, anything that is associated with a school or book learning. Get you a notebook, get you some pens, get your phone for a calculator, and just start writing shit down. What do you expect to come in every week or every 2 weeks? Right? What do you when are the bills generally due? How much is the electricity supposed to be? Now, what do the losers say that go on when Caleb Hammer asks them all these questions? What do the losers say? Oh, well, it varies. No, no, of course it varies, you dumb motherfucker. What do you estimate it to be? So if it could be between 80 and $120, I don't know, budget 100. Or just be very conservative, you traditional family values conservatives, and budget 120. And guess what? At the end of the week or the 2 weeks or the month, when there's money left over, add it to whatever you budgeted for savings or retirement or investment. It's a bonus. Or go spend it. Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? Go spend it. Right? You don't have a budget. You do not have a notebook with written down. See, what I'm talking about is what is today? The 23rd. I'm talking about a notebook that it's already written down 11/31 electric bill due and the amount. And you wrote that shit down last month. And see what I'm saying? It's got to be done ahead of time. So go take a picture with your phone, Goblin, of you where you've written down what your expenses are expected to be in the next week or the next 2 weeks or the month. Go right now and take a picture of that and email it to me. You can't because you don't have that. But now that you're getting called to the carpet, you won't just be, you won't have integrity. You won't be a man and just say, wow, you're right, Benton. I don't have a budget. I don't have a written budget that I adhere to. No, you try to, in a very feminine way, and again, I shouldn't even call it feminine, in a less than manly masculine way, you're trying to weasel your way out of it by saying, well, I do have a budget, but it's scarce. Oh, poor me, right? It doesn't matter how little your income is, right? If you have income, you put the income in the budget. If you have expenses, you put the expenses in the budget. It doesn't matter if you're a pauper. Even a pauper can have a budget. The last time I had a written budget that I adhered to that needed to be written down, right? Because I can do all this shit in my head because of my experience of having a written budget. I made on average $385 a week. Now, the wifey made more than that. In some weeks, she made double that. But guess what, Caleb Hammerites? It varies. Yeah, no shit, it varies. But what do we think it's going to be next paycheck based on the amount of hours and the amount of overtime? See, the loser just says, I don't want to keep track of how many hours and how much overtime I'm working. And the loser doesn't even want to work 40 hours. And the loser damn sure doesn't want to work overtime. Whereas my attitude and wifey's attitude was, we'll take all the overtime you'll give us. We both worked, and before that, we were both waiting tables, and we both worked 6 days a week, right? And I worked doubles on Sunday because we were open for lunch on Sunday. It was the only day of the week that my restaurant was open for lunch. I worked lunch and dinner on Sunday. And then I would take the slow day, Tuesday, off, right? But what do I get accused of on here? Being a beggar, right? Meanwhile, uh, I will always outwork the fucking losers like Goblin without trying because he's a loser, but he's free to turn himself into a winner, right? And stop complaining about his lot in life. I'm not complaining that I slept in a car last night and I'm 49 years old and my fucking knees hurt when I wake up because the easiest way for me to sleep without fucking my back up is to uh, have my legs folded all night. Now I could stretch them out into the front seat, but now we're, in danger of my pelvis falling into the fucking, the where your feet go in the back seat and fucking my back up. Right. I'm not into that. See, and now he's a victim. See, now Goblin is a victim of sharing. Oh, my apologies for sharing. Again, less than masculine. I'm sorry that you didn't have a big, strong, tough, masculine father to raise you. I want to meet Goblin's dad. Your dad failed you, Goblin. I'm sorry that happened to you. It sucks that you didn't have a strong masculine presence in your life. I'm sorry. That sucks. My parents did everything in their power to fuck me up in certain ways and succeeded to a great extent in certain ways, but in other ways they served me quite well. But anyway, we got to wrap this up. Let me yurt and run everybody off. You will be relegated to the most infernal review process you could imagine. I don't know what that means, but that's funny because I'm behind in the chat. Well, okay, take a picture of it and email it to me because I don't believe you, sir. And then if you do take a picture of whatever you think is a budget, I will explain to you why that's not what I'm talking about. So go ahead and do the thing, sir, or just keep lying, right? Yeah, they say supposedly robots are doing 10% of the jobs in Korea right now, South Korea, and that's a response to one of the comments. But I got to get out of here fairly soon because I'm going to go buy the eggs, and I don't like going in there when they're busy. See this, but this is still 0809 is what I'm trying to impress upon you. This is not the second round. Now this is the same script has been run again to some extent. But Goblin says I'm only, and then see the excuse making. I'm only 35 and 0809 first economical episode. This second round for me, I do what I got to do. Well, then what are you complaining about if you do what you got to do? Well, then what's the whining for? What's the whining for? And 35's old. I hate to break it to you. You're middle aged. You're at the you're now reaching middle age, sir. Uh, Yurt says, "Peace to the man in the chat." Right back at you. Saw a headline that 10% of South Korean workforce is now robotic. Yeah, we saw the same article. Yeah, he did. Thanks. Yeah, Goblin got worked over here today. Yeah, do better, Goblin. Do better. Do better. Uh, that's my goal. My path is progress. There's never a day where I'm not striving to do better. Period. Now, here's the thing, Goblin. I don't get to live a life where that do better adds up to other people viewing my life from the outside, especially via social media, and then them saying, wow, that looks like success. And in fact, one of the most viewed live streams ever on this channel was called This Is Success, where I explained that, well, by definition, the way I live is success. By definition, the definition of the word success. Because remember, it's in America, we only measure in money. See? We only measure in money. Speaking of measuring in money, feel free to hit the Cash App, folks. Feel free to hit the Amazon, and that's already been hit today. Thank you very much. You know who you are. Much appreciated. I will buy things that are necessary to continue my existence here in this realm, and I will obviously or well, I will continue seeking to assist others in their endeavors as well. But yeah, we're out of here. Got shit to do. Um, just reading the chat real quick, making sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Razvan says at this point I could quit my job, but he would change. He just changed jobs for now, and he's working 8 hours max, and he's home. Yeah, and what I would say is, it's just my opinion is, there were times when I attempted to replace my day job with poker income, which I actually probably did have the skill to do at the time. But there's a little more pressure, right? There's a little more pressure. That can change some of the decision making. So it is a little bit easier to pull the trigger, right? When it doesn't really fucking matter at the end of the day whether the trade is successful or not. That is a little bit different of a thing, right? But you'll know what to do, Razvan. You'll know what to do. What's up, slow boy? Shout out to coffee. I'm off it, but yeah, it is wonderful. Well, I mean, that's the thing is, yeah, because of my critical father, who never passed up an opportunity to ride roughshod over me as a youth, I'm able to handle if somebody directs that at me. But here's the thing: the way I just talk to Goblin, I talk to myself the same way in my head on a daily basis, right? Not in a, oh, I need to feel bad about what I'm doing way, in a, uh, I'm always looking for what can I critique, right? How can I optimize my actions? How can I optimize my decision making? And I don't worry about the part where I don't feel like doing something. I don't know if you know this, Goblin. I left my automobile at 3 a.m. and I walked around for an hour and a half picking up cans and bottles that are worth maybe $5, right? But the utility of the $5, I'm going to eat my main meal of the day is going to be $5. So, and also I did the same yesterday. So I'm going to turn in probably between $8 and $12 of recycling, right? And I did the same thing yesterday. So my main meal of the day is paid for already. You see what I'm saying? I'm doing everything I can to stay ahead of the game, and that's the only way to avoid falling behind, right? And, I understand that a lot of us did not have a person in our life to ride us like that. And not everybody responds to being well ridden, also. And that is not a euphemism, uh, certainly. Yeah, I am a dick. Thank you. Yes, I am. I come from a long line of fucking assholes. Thank you for noticing. Absolutely. But here's the interesting thing about being a dick and an asshole. Sometimes only an asshole or a dick is able to get the job done. And I'll wrap up on this, such as the time when myself and about 15 of my fellow Greyhound passengers found ourselves stranded at the Phoenix Greyhound, because what had happened is something happened where the buses got all fucked up, and I don't know, maybe if there were some out of service buses. So when we were to switch buses at Phoenix, we got off of our bus. We were told, okay, go wait, and we're going to announce here's your code for your next bus. We're going to announce the code, and then you're going to go board your next bus. What we didn't know is that there were previously stranded passengers who were just going to bum rush that bus as soon as it was available, and that in order to not have to deal with us in the short term, they just never announced our code. And believe me, with my hypervigilance, I'm not capable of sitting there and missing the code. So the reason the staff did this is because now when I go to the counter and be like, hey, what the fuck's going on here? They can just say, hey, we called your bus. You must have missed it. Well, Benton don't miss buses. This is impossible, right? So after several hours, and including the woman who was helping me at the counter, I said, well, I'm not leaving this counter until y'all resolve this. And she said, well, I guess I'm going on break. The bitch clocked out and went on break and just left me standing there. I physically tracked down the person who was running the facility, and I said, hey, man, here's the situation. What are you going to do to resolve this? And I shit you not, he said this to me. He said, I'm not responsible for that. I said, well, if you're the one in charge, you have to be responsible for it. And then I said, hey, man, here's what's about to happen. You see those 15 or so really angry people, I'm going to organize them, and none of these buses are going to leave this terminal, and none of these buses are going to enter this terminal because I've got enough people to block the fucking entry and the exit. So I'm about to shut this motherfucker down. So what are you going to do? And what he did was he contacted whoever he had to contact. They got a bus into service. They called in a driver who wasn't scheduled to work, who picked up a shift. And within a couple of hours, we were on our way to El Paso, where Greyhound put us all in hotels while they figured out how the fuck to get us further along our journey. And if I wasn't a fucking asshole who was unwilling to break off his size 12 in that dude's ass, I don't know. For all I know, I'd still motherfucking be there. Or maybe I would have walked back to Arkansas. Thanks for watching. Bye.